Good times. This feels great.
Yep.
Okay, so we got about 258 slides to go through in the next 45 minutes, so buckle up. I'm STÖK, this is joohoi, and we're actually here because we are on tour for the release of our new album, Pure Scandinavian Darkness. Pretty sweet. No, I'm kidding. We're actually here to talk about space weather and heat and voltage and other stuff that makes your devices and mine go haywire and spit out things and fetch resources, leak credentials, and send emails to places that they really weren't supposed to. Like this nice Slack token invite, right? That's cool to have.
Yeah.
And if we take a closer look to this, isn't that really close to the company that you work for?
It actually looks like, but it's a Q instead of A there, so it is in fact a typo. So if we inspect our keyboard here, Q is basically straight next to A. And this is just what happens when you misplace your hand on a keyboard and you know typos. This is a typo.
And that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about bitflips, but bitflips is kind of like typos, but for computers, because no humans are involved in this. And what's really cool with bitflips is that it takes just one bit to change everything. Because if we take this G in Google here, for instance, you can see that that's built out of all these ones and zeros here. And we flip this one here from 1 to 0, it turns into Google. And if we change these two here, well, that's Google. And then you can go down here and change that one, and it turns into Google. And since we're speaking about Google, if this was WordPress and you change that W to something else, it's zero, it would be GordPress. And you can actually buy that domain if we want to, because it's one flip away.
Actually, you can't anymore, because we did this presentation in Black Hat a month ago, and that domain is not available anymore.
Somebody actually bought it. I think it's Ming, though. So anyway, and that is something called bit squatting. And bit squatting was a term that was coined kind of by Artem Dinenberg at DEF CON 2019, and he made this really cool research paper that explains everything, right? Super cool. And if we dig into the whole term bit squatting over at Wikipedia and actually read, it says, bit squatting is a form of cyber squatting which relies on bitflip errors that occur during the process of making a DNS request. The bitflips may occur due to factors as faulty hardware and cosmic rays. And I'm like, cosmic rays. And got super nerd sniped by my Dylan Avery because he told me that he bought googleapis.com, which is one flip away from googleapis.com. And due to what he said, cosmic rays, he got a lot of loot. And with loot, I'm meaning API tokens and, leak credentials, JavaScript fetches that he could inject stuff in. And I'm like, ooh. I need some of that. And so I asked him, how can I do this? I want to do this too. And he's like, it's super easy. Just buy a couple of flip domains, catch all the DNS requests, write some simple code to do shit with it and store it in a log file.
Yeah, simple, right?
Simple. But since all of you are smart people, I figured that I'll just break it down, the classic DNS HTTP flow on a client for you, so we all understand how it works, because it wasn't really clear to me. And it's important long down the road. So let's say that we want to have this OAuth dance, right? The client would then want to authenticate to, in this case, let's play around with WordPress. So it's going to connect to this upline DNS. That upline DNS is going to talk to root DNS, and that's going to start with a nice NS record with the name server that's authority for that. That server is going to respond back with an IP address for that particular domain. And the client is going to be, cool. That means that I can send a request to this web server. It's going to get a response back with some kind of token thing in this next part of this dance. But imagine for a second now that it flips in the memory of the device. This is pre-flight. So now it flips. WordPress turns into GordPress. What's going to happen now is that it's going to do the same DNS request upline, and then another server is going to respond. Super happy and say, yeah. By the way, this is the address that you're going to go to. Different one. Client, happy, sends the request to the server with all the handshakes token and all that mojanga.
Yummy.
Yummy. Spicy.
Extra spicy.
That was great. Shitload of years ago. Then somebody thought that HTTPS was a cool thing. So boom, that's going to happen if you don't have the right certificate for that kind of domain. So, and if you're hosting it on your server, you need to do kind of all this. I realized this was all I had to do. Like buy the right flip domain, set up a bind9 catch-all DNS server, nginx and a proxy, add some dynamic Flask code to it, and store the HTML log files, and then generate a lot of Let's Encrypt certificates, and renew those every 90 days. And just to explain why certificates is a hard thing here, we need to understand that if let's say that I get an authentication for this auth domain, right? That means that the certificate I need to provide need to contain any of these pre-staged SON certificates for the connection to be correct. But there's also another option, and that's to have like a wildcard certificate, right?
Yep.
And a wildcard certificate, in this case, it's start at WordPress. And what that's going to do is that it's going to like allow any of these first level kind of things, like www and blog and whatever in there. But if the request is a, let's say, auth.dev API, well, that's going to be a warning for you again, because you only had it for the first layer. So you need another wildcard certificate to cover the rest of them. And that's going to be cool, because then the request is going to go to WordPress and that one, and you have this extra one here, and it's all fun.
Yeah, the DNS zones can be vast. Like people really, really love to add like a subdomain of a subdomain of a subdomain nowadays.
And if you work with any kind of modern web apps today, they have these like EMEA, dev1, blah, blah, blah. It's like very, very long. And guessing those can be tedious and takes a lot of time. And every time you needed to make this kind of text record, and then you had to add that into the nginx, and then have that in the routes manually, and then renew those every 90 days. That was a tedious process. So I figured that, hey, why not just automate the whole thing? That's going to be great. But I wasn't really happy about the whole automation process, so I put on sunscreen and did something else for about 2 years. I forgot about the whole project. I got the box up and running to one day when I got this nice message from my VSP provider that says, oh, your Flippy McFlippy face is running out of disk space. I'm like, oh, what? What's that? Interesting. So I logged into the shell and looked at the box, and lo and behold, it was out of disk space. It's like, I wonder what's in there. So I looked into my cache log file, and that was full of load. So I was super happy and like excited about it.
Yeah. So meanwhile, I have a small story to share as well. So I love self-hosting. I've been doing self-hosting for the better part of the last like 20 years and so. And in the context of this story, I want to remind you that all the domains shown here, they're here for just like aesthetic purposes, because with lo-fi, we're able to use cool graphics of C cassettes and stuff like that. 1890s vibes. So yeah, they're fictional. So jumping into the story. Everybody loves short domains, right? So I registered mine, l0.fi. And what I do with domains that I purchase, I set up my stuff. And with the emails, I always use these like catch-all email, like MTA setup there. So what the catch-all does is that I'm able to set up a unique kind of username, because email addresses are used as usernames everywhere, to each service that I use. So if something gets compromised or, sells my data, I'm just able to block that from MTA and live happily ever after.
And you're a masochist.
Yeah, that's comes with the email hosting, right? I'm stupid like that. Anyway, with my setup, these things started suddenly flowing into my email. emails that are not really supposed to come my way, and they're actually targeted for a bank? Okay, so let's look into here. So L0.fi, right? Well, turns out there's LO.fi that belongs to a bank. So now I'm suddenly every bank employee, every support thing that they may have for their customers that type all these addresses. And that's not really a place where I want to be in. So I do whatever like a responsible person would do. I try to contact the bank security through email, wait for a couple of days for an answer, and nothing. Black hole. Sure, I do kind of get it that there's no real kind of technical good solution for the issue. But yeah, I'm not giving up. So I pick up my phone, call their customer service. Could you please connect me with somebody who's able to help me? Because I think this kind of, it's bad, right? Unfortunately, they're not. Again, no easy technical solution, so we move along. So meanwhile, you probably know what this bad boy is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, scanner. It scans stuff. Stuff like contracts, documents, stuff like that. But if you connect that to a network, it can also send stuff. But in case you're doing so, make sure that it's configured correctly. So in one of the bank's subsidiaries, there was this bad boy who was badly configured. And now my email gets filled with people's bank documents as well, contracts and stuff.
Why not? Winning.
Oh, please. Okay, so there's nothing that the bank security can do at the moment, so yeah, we just, like, time passes, summer comes along, and what do you do during the summer?
Have a vacation?
Yeah, I go to a hacker camp, right? So in 2017, there was this camp called Saas, and there, in a Finnish village, there were people from NCSC, FI, basically the Finnish cert people, and I explained the high-level thing of this to them, and they were like, oh shit, I'm going to connect you directly to somebody because they have the hotline. But unfortunately, I don't have my keys. I can't do anything about that with me from here, but let's do it when we get home. So we get home, NCSC, FI, they're awesome. They're like a basic part of the Finnish hacker community as well. They deliver like they always do. They connect me with somebody, a lawyer. That's not the most like a comfortable place to be in as a security researcher / hacker, right? However, the lawyer was awesome. The discussion was civil, and yeah, there's no technical solution. So I ended up, like just giving the domain away. I didn't have anything important at that point. So that's the end of the story, right? Not quite. So a couple of years in the future, I registered a new short domain, ki.fi. Everything nice and dandy, set up my catch-all stuff there.
But that's totally different.
And these start flowing again to the same fucking bank. How? Well, a quick glimpse to the keyboard points out it's a one-off error. Your hand is one off. Now, I already have the contact. I contact the bank and like, okay, it's me again, hi, you never guessed what. And they explain the issue. And like, this time, unfortunately, I'm not going to give the domain away. It's nice. And there's no really kind of visual similarities. It's not cannot be considered phishing or anything. And the bank people actually did the smartest thing. They gave up email altogether. All the customer communication happens within the bank application. The issue is dealt. And this is actually the end of the story.
But it's actually the beginning of another one. Because in this January, me and Joona were hanging out at Disobey. And we're good friends, so we're having good times and sharing ideas about loot and stuff we found. And I told her about my catch-all DNS kind of thing-majiggy, and said that it was really tedious, but I found so much cool stuff, so we should really look into it. And after some discussion, we realized that it was a really tedious process, and the only way forward would be probably to scrap it all and then redesign everything and then have something really cool.
Yeah, but it's a shitload of work, right? Like, we're not young guys anymore. Like, do we have all of that in us? Like, it's a lot of things that we have to do, like DNS server, it's like everything. So I'm really doubtful, but should we do it?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we're super.
So we built Certainly. and Certainly is a great tool for you. And it listens to everything. It's your friendly butler. The really nice thing is that it also says yes to everything. Super polite. So whatever you send it, it's going to say yes. And it delivers on-the-fly certificates. So if a request comes in, it's going to say, oh, here's a fresh, juicy certificate for you. And what an excellent choice you did, sir. And then pass it on. So the flow here is, this is what, let's get back to the idea where we were in the initial idea with the bit flipping parts of it. So remember this, it flips in the memory of the client, WordPress turns into WordPress, it sends it over to the upstream DNS, the upstream DNS is going to talk to the root server, and then it's going to talk to Certainly. And what Certainly does here is that it's going to respond back with a defined IP address that you set in the config file. It's going to log all the information, so in the future you will know what kind of stuff that was trying to talk to your box, because it's great for recon. And we thought that was a cool idea because most of the previous talks on this subject talked about DNS poisoning. So we thought, oh, cool. We'll just respond back with not just a legit answer for the domain that we have, but also for the matching pair domain.
DNS poisoning.
DNS poisoning, and it's super cool until we realized that shit started to break like real hard. so we have to remove that, and but it's open source, so you can figure out how to do that. And that means that the client is now getting the nice Certainly response coming back, and it knows what to do. So the next step is going to be for it to connect to that server that has and perform the first part of the TLS handshake.
Yeah, so basically this is where the HTTPS part of the whole communication takes over. So what happens there is that obviously client opens a TCP connection, starts the TLS handshake with sending the client hello in. The client hello contains the domain that they're trying to fetch the certificate for. And Certainly goes like a hold up, pauses the whole TLS authentication, the TLS handshake and the TCP session. And while everything is taking a break, Certainly runs in the background, goes to the CA and that, hey, I kind of need this certificate, please give it to me fast, in a bit of a hurry here. And yeah, the CA will provide the challenge for Certainly that they need to kind of use to prove their ownership of the domain. And Certainly is certainly happy to serve and answer to that challenge because obviously it controls, it has the whole like a DNS stack in it.
Yeah, we built our own DNS server.
Yeah, it has all the keys. It can do that. So it provides the challenge token. CA goes like a happy, thanks, all good. Here's your certificate. Now run along, and Certainly says thanks, gets the certificate and provides that to the waiting client that has now been paused on average for 3 seconds. So no real timeouts there. And the client is of course happy because the certificate is valid for the domain that they requested for because the flip happened pre-flight. So they are kind of expecting the flipped certificate as well. And the client is happy to provide Certainly with all the loot, all the nice things that we're discussing here. And Certainly we'll take that graciously, put it into a log file for future analysis purposes, I don't know. But then it does the most gentle thing. It passes the customer along with the 307 temporary redirect because we don't want to break things here. We're the good guys, right?
Yes, we're the good guys.
And after that, Certainly just graciously backs off from the whole process. The client is back at the original server, and everything is nice and dandy.
Because we realized that in any kind of customer relationship, it's very important to treat the client with respect and grace, because then they seems to be a returning customer, which is super sweet.
Customer retention.
Yes, so be nice to those. So I hear you thinking like, oh, cool, I want to do this too. How can I get some domains? Well, Luke Young did some really cool research a few years back, presented at DEFCON 23, where he shows that you can do this with a nice ROI, and he has a cool data set and released a Go tool called bitflip. We're going to use that as a reference. You can build your own or use this. So what you could do is to use bitflip and ask it for WordPress, and what it's going to give you is the options that are already registered for this domain, the flipped ones, and the ones that are available.
The stars are free.
Stars means that are up for grab, which is super nice. So in this case, for WordPress, we had about 28 domains to buy.
That's quite a lot.
It's not a lot of money in the first part, but I mean, that's an easy investment. But the second time when you need to renew those, it's going to be a little bit steeper. And if you do those for a couple of hundred domains, it's going to be very expensive. So we need to find a way to funnel down. And one way we realized, how can you do this in a way where people don't need to buy all the domains? So I looked into this research here where some really smart people broke down the whole idea if it's a bigger or higher chance that one will flip to a 0. And if we look at the data here, you can see that it's a higher probability if a bit goes from 1 to 0, and it has to do with something, keeping a charge requires more energy, and then it just easier flips to a 0.
Electricity and magic, right?
Electricity and magic. So we figured that. Okay, so O is the character that has the most ones. Same for, and W is a good one too. And if we look into this, they have something called character siblings, because O can turn into KGMNL and W VSGCP. Those are their neighboring ones that will turn into something when one character happens. There are obviously a lot of more different characters that have these, but some of them flip into Unicode characters and weirder ones, and we want to have the ones that has the higher probability to turn into something that DNS likes.
Yeah, hey, you people there in the back, are you able to see the last line? Because if you don't, I have some news for you.
Yeah, probably laser surgery. So we're going to go on the other way around. Then we have the ones and the zeros here, right? So A and B are the ones that has most zeros. If we look, and they are on the other part of the spectrum, so these are good too, but there are some minor challenges with these. So let's say that if you have, okay, just look at this bit here. This bit here, if that flips, it always changes, like if it's a lower or higher case. Yeah, that's always the same.
And DNS doesn't care, right?
DNS doesn't care. I mean, that's why if you're looking through your logs, it looks like somebody has been doing this let kind of thing. When you request to, it's normal flipping. And but if you flip this one here, all these 1s to 0 instead, well, this character turns into different ones. Couldn't believe and a backtick. And backticks are cool.
Yeah, we love backticks, but not in the DNS really. Well, there are
DNS doesn't like it, so this is just showcasing that could happen, but it's better to stick with these ones that seems to be very high probable ones. And out of these, we saw the most likely then to flip into other characters. And what we realized is that it's actually K that has the higher probabilities. So O likes to turn into K. Then it's G and M and so on. So if you want to do like buy in a couple of domains and you want to have a good ROI on your sneaky shenanigans, then go for something turning out to K. Somebody else obviously did that for WordPress. Smart. But these are the other options that we would be presented with to be able to buy if we wanted to, instead of buying 28 domains, buy these 5 and 4 and you have a good time. Because all it takes is exactly that single character from 1 to 0 to turn WordPress into WordPress. Cool. But how about top-level domains? If we look into all the TLDs that are out there, there's a bunch of them. And if we run a little bit of a curl to the current data set and you see, okay, how many of these are there in there? It's 1,447 minus 1 line, so it's 1,446 TLDs currently.
That's quite a few.
Quite a few. So Now when we have internet hacking things, I asked ChatGPT to take all this and compare which are the ones that has a relative flip sibling. And it shows out that it's actually 348 of them that has the potential to turn into something else on the TLD level. And what I'm meaning here is that .io actually flips in .im. So, and .im is the Isle of Man. So you can actually buy a .im domain there. Somebody thought that it was a really good idea to buy metamask.im. I wonder why. I definitely didn't buy it, but I bought a bunch of other cool domains. Mwahaha. You have this also as well. Com flips very easily into BOM. And BOM is a now soon-to-be-released kind of domain where it's Portuguese, and BOM means all things good. And hey, why not? When things are good, why not try to pre-register for Amazon.com? Well, I'm the proud owner of that. We'll see if that goes through or not. Another option would be for you to buy a GLTD or vanity one, but it has a little bit of a other challenge, because the best one that you could get would be KCM, obviously. I mean, that would be a winner, but it comes at a steep price. $185,000 for the application fee.
Yeah, so make sure you have a kind of pretty good justification why you should actually have that top-level domain.
Yeah, you need to prove a lot of stuff.
Doing a bitflip research is probably not one.
No.
And as a bitflip researcher, you probably don't have 185K.
Yeah, and an easy way to understand how this works is like, okay, wait a second. So, Nike, they have all their infrastructure on .Nike. Flips to .Nike, like. So there's a lot of chances that you get that. And whatever kind of other characters, looking at these major TLDs, you can flip it into something else if you buy that right domain. But it's going to be expensive, and you need to prove it.
Yeah,
so.
and also with the existing CC TLDs, which are the country TLDs, there's a lot of interesting geopolitical things in there.
There's so many things you can do here. Anyway, we want to be serious and replicate the results as interested for the science of everything. So since we now had, certainly, we thought that, okay, we really like space things, so we're hoping that we could in some way or form prove that it was the space laser kind of mazingis that did this. So using the bit squatting, we bought 25 domains, and that's from cloud SaaS providers, package repos, and other stuff from stuff that you use every day. And we ran those for 4 months and 23 days, hoping for something to happen. And we got way lucky, because in May, planet Earth got hit by the strongest solar storms in 20 years. So it was like awesome, and we're sitting there like, we have infrastructure.
Yeah, we're basically just waiting for that beautiful solar storm to hit us.
You're like, yes. It's like pure Nordic love for everything. It's like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And we agreed to not look into logs until Monday. So like, yeah, it's going to be so awesome. We looked into it, and like, nothing.
So yeah, you can actually see here, like, it's lower than average.
And we started to go back in time and then compare all these other weather kind of thingies with if we could see any spikes for that period. But it's still nothing. And then this appeared.
Yeah, so I was actually at the airport. We were on our way to Vegas for the Black Hat presentation. And I spotted this new research paper. It was today, it's like, 2 months old. A great research inspecting the correlation between DRAM errors and the cosmic rays.
The thing that we wanted to time.
Yeah.
They are scientists.
It's done by Barcelona Supercomputing Center in collaboration with the European Space Agency and the University of Athens. They have a vast data set with all the different sorts of hardware and stuff like that. And the results? No correlation. The last 15 years of kind of the main theory around that was that it's cosmic rays.
None of that.
No. They, in fact, recommend the previous research to revisit their data and see what's up.
Right, so there's no way that you can blame it on space with it anymore. Actually, you need to take a little bit of ownership because facts remains. During this period, we collected about 62 million DNS requests coming in. Out of those, that turns into 2.8 million signed HTTPS requests, TLS, that we had coming into our box. But we also got about 15,000 emails.
That's a lot of Viagra.
And Nigerian princes. But in fact, there's cool stuff there, because remember this bad boy?
Yeah, this bad boy.
Seems like those tend to do things.
So returning customer as well. So these things, yeah, they scan things. If they're connected to the network, they also send things. And apparently, bitflips happen in them as well. So yeah, we get these emails with scans of people from, yeah, these
It could have come in off that computer for someone, and that's a good PII capture.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your bank, though.
No, no.
Different domain. Okay. So, and this is the juicy stuff, the spicy things. That we also collected about 2,300 OAuth authentication tokens, JW tokens, and all that yamma jazz from multiple Fortune 500 companies, and that we more or less had account takeover. That's a lot of accounts. That's a lot of devices.
Extra spicy.
Extra spicy. And with having this in mind, the recent Snowflake data breach, it kind of puts the whole idea of like, okay, this is probably not as good as, it happens way more than we thought it would do.
For sure.
And it's way more bad than we thought it would be. So I can hear you like, okay, shit.
So what am I supposed to do? Well, obviously, the process starts with like everything else, take responsibility.
Yes.
So figure like just take action, start to do stuff. So the first thing, the most obvious thing is obviously getting these bitflip domains.
Yes, and it means that if you are a company that has an app or something, these are the things that you need to do, not you as hackers. You can do this too, though.
So yeah, you can go the like a cheap route, getting the domains that are most likely to flip, or you can do the amazing Amazon thing. They got it all, everything.
Yeah,
that's good. Another thing that you can do, especially as we saw a kind of over-representation of mobile devices in our data, you can do cert pinning. But while implementing cert pinning, make sure that you actually do it right. Because remember, we're talking about pre-flight requests here. So if you have a basically mapping with a certificate and their fingerprint, the flip domain is obviously not in the map. So if you fail open, it's just not going to do anything.
We're going to get it.
Yeah. So yeah, take care when implementing. And the kind of coolest and probably the most ambitious way to fix this would be in the programming language core network libraries, and to have them do the same super nice thing that OpenBSD pledge system does, which is basically during the application initialization, you would tell the network library that these are the domains that we are going to be talking with, and adding an extra step in the whole certificate validation process to make sure that those are the ones, and kill the connection if it's not.
Or you can blame it on DNS and keep on ignoring it and living blissful forever after. I have no problems with that. But I think your customer's going to have a problem with that. And I hear wondering, like, so why is all this happening? And
not cosmic rays.
And I mean, say again?
Not cosmic rays.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why does it happen? To be fully honest and transparent, we have no idea. So that's why this call is this talk is a call for research, because we realize that it's a shitloads of apps that people built out there that suddenly just flips in the memory, or something happens pre-flight. We're not even caring about this in traffic negotiating down TLS kind of client discussions. That's another part. But So one theory would be that it could have to do with some kind of row hammer thing, that since it's running in the memory of a computer, it reads the same string over and over and over again, and it flips there because we get so many returning customers. Or that the whole agreement over the year that it said that it rarely happens is due to the fact that it rarely got caught. And there's so many potential ways this can go wrong. I mean, it's everything from CPU to CPU cache, memory channel, network.
Snipe. So we are both really easily nerd sniped. We hope that we were able to, like get your brains going here as well. Like, because now the tool that we wrote, certainly, it is out there. It's open source, FOSS. You're able to get that, so you're able to kind of continue where we left here. Everybody's able to take a look. So what certainly does is that it is a DNS server. Obviously, able to add like multiple domains, have all of that mapping between the flip domains that you registered and the original one where you should be redirected to, and stuff like that. It has like HTTP, HTTPS, IMAP, SMTPS, and stuff like that. But the coolest thing here is obviously that it does in-flight, on-demand TLS certificates. So you kind of don't have to pre-validate everything, and you're able to catch even the very first request coming in.
Yeah, the anomaly. We get the first anomaly. You just get that.
Stuff happens rarely, but there's like the whole like a DNS zone is usually vast, so it's something else, something new many times. Obviously, has injection templates, stuff like that. So because we're in control of the traffic, we can, do some shenanigans there as well. It's there to point the impact right. We do the logging like a JSON format, so JSON lines format. So it's easy to ingest into your favorite data analysis engine.
Because there is a lot of data. We log everything.
Yeah,
so it's massive amount of data that you can go through, but it's also great because you get a lot of requests that you can look into.
Yeah. It has all of these functionalities to kind of mirror the state of the upstream target, basically doing like a upstream DNS checks before answering these requests. Does the same for HTTP, HTTPS.
If you want to be sneaky. Like
exactly.
if you're doing a red team engagement and you want to sneak around and not leave a lot of certificates, then you say, maybe this is the only domain, or I want these certain ones to, if they're in my scope, then you should allow the request, otherwise it's just going to drop it.
Yeah, and you're able to do like stuff if you want to know when stuff happens, you're able to set up, like these Slack notifications with the whole thing, and it does has a lot of like bells and whistles. Got nerd snap, right? It's fully customizable. It's open source, MIT licensed stuff. So feel free to go and poke and let us know what happened. So the tool called Certainly. It's available here at the GitHub repo happycakefriends/certainly in GitHub.
And sorry, Dr. Love, for stealing your name, but we got stickers. So
yeah, that's
I guess
we are authentic, right? Because we got the stickers.
We got stickers. Anyway, use cases for this would be if you're running this. Say that you're a pen tester, bug hunter, and you have a target. You get a couple of domains for your new target, doing your pen test or whatever you're doing. You're running this because there's going to be a shitload of DNS requests coming into you that has nothing to do with just going into the full HTTP connection. It could be that the target doesn't allow any outgoing egress, but you will get the internal naming standard, and that's going to get it way easier for you to doing brute forcing when it comes to DNS lookups, and you'll have a bigger idea what actually happens to that organization.
Yeah, and especially like larger enterprises, they typically have these like dual horizon DNS setups where the internal network actually sees something more than the external network and so on and so forth. But it all gets disclosed here.
Exactly, and since it collects all the head, post, get, all the jamma, you'll get all the data that's in there. It's going to be cool. So it's very easy to use for parameter farming, because if you couldn't guess the parameter, somebody might just have supplied it for you.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and you also get shitload of scanner boys. So if you want to be able to know whoever hits your stuff right now, then spin up a couple of domains, because every time a new certificate gets hired, all the boys come running. And that's perfect if you want to either be able to, well, maybe use their payloads because they're giving all their exploits away. Or you can, in this case, just identify if there's any risk that you need to deal with.
So yeah, all in all, we need more eyes on the issue. We need more research on this. We need more people with like other vantage points than we do. Obviously, we are there at the end of the pipeline, just like looking whatever comes our way. But we would really love to have people that have the visibility over the hardware and you know, different layers. As we showed, it goes through the whole thing, right? But most importantly, I think it's we need to act on these things. Like, we have things that we can do today, things that we can do right now to protect against this. They are not perfect. We don't know the root cause, but we know something at least that we can do. The most important thing, however, is to recalibrate our trust anchors. So everything kind of things go wrong because we think that the computers do always the right thing. They don't make mistakes. They do the exact thing that they are programmed to do. But I don't know. Turns out computers are humans after all. So thank you. My name is Joohoi, and
I'm STÖK Fredrik. Thank you for coming to our talk.